Amanda. Happy Friday. Right now, I am in graduate school for school counseling, and when I was at Wofford, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder when I was a sophomore. And then, long story short, and I'll go back and fill in the missing pieces, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2 in March of this year. And that was just kind of like a turning point in my life, because at the time, I was in kind of like a group therapy class where I could learn as counselors how to like conduct a group and like make people talk to each other when they don't want to talk to each other, and like learn social skills and all kinds of play games. It's a lot of fun. But in that group, I kind of shared a lot of my story about having mental illness and what that was like. And it took me kind of a long time over the semester to open up about it. And normally I'm really open book about fear. But at the end of it, we all had to kind of go around the circle, and like everybody had to say something nice about everybody else. And I was just floored by things that people said to me, because they would say like, you know, because you shared your story with this, with depression and bipolar stuff, like I feel like I'm going to be able to help clients better. Like I feel like I'm going to be able to understand this, like when people tell me what they're going through. And somebody else was like, if, like just looking at you, like somebody who is like so fun and vibrant and stuff, like I never would have guessed that you go to places that are like so dark and hard and scary. And then the third person, they were like 20, but I remember these three. She was like, just looking at you, like I would have thought that your life was perfect, and that you totally had your life together, and everything was fine, and like nothing was wrong, you had like everything you ever wanted, and all your hopes and dreams were coming true and stuff, if you hadn't told us your story. And I heard that one, and I was just kind of like, geez, like, you think my life is perfect? Like, it's definitely not. It's like the farthest thing from that. So that was kind of my wake-up call, where I was like, what am I doing that people think my life is so perfect when I'm like, I feel like it's completely in shambles. So dial back to right before the summer before I was a sophomore was my first time on an airplane. I was flying to Colorado, and I never been on a plane before. I really hate flying, like still. I really don't love to do it. I really like staying in America if I can. So I was such a dork, and I Googled all this stuff about first time flying, and like had like maps of the Denver airport terminals printed out, so I would like know where to go and like where the Pizza Hut was, and like had it highlighted, and like I was really very good in college. And then I had Googled like literal first time flying tips, and one of them I remember was like, when you're on a plane and it's taking off and you hit turbulence and like you feel like you want to freak out, look at the other people on the plane, and if they're not freaking out, then you shouldn't freak out either. And I was like, okay, like that's a good tip, so I'm gonna do that. So I'm sitting there like all by myself, and I was like, flight to Denver, and like I'd never been on a plane before, so I just didn't really know what that was going to be like. And so we're up in the air, and like we're going in that big circle, and like the plane is just like sideways in the air, and I'm just kind of like, today is the day that I'm going to die, because this is probably not how airplanes are supposed to fly, just a guess. And so I'm like looking at the people around me, and everybody's just chilling, like nothing is wrong. There's like homeboy in front of me just reading like Sky Mall magazine. And I'm like, okay, well nobody's freaking out, so I shouldn't freak out either. And that kind of made me think about what the people said to me in my group therapy class. They were like, I feel like I've got this story, but people are looking at me, and I'm just chilling there reading my Sky Mall magazine like nothing's going on in my life. And so that was kind of a wake-up call. It was like, I have this stuff that I could talk about, and I want to do that. And so that is when I started doing that. I just decided to show up and tell my story and be authentic. And even though it was really scary and really hard, and a lot of really hard things have happened because of that, a lot of really cool and beautiful and awesome things have happened because of it too, and I've gotten to help a lot of people. So this is kind of the story of all this. So I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder when I was a sophomore in college. It was the end of November. And what had happened was, right before I got to school for the semester, I found out that one of my really good friends from back home had been murdered. And that's like a really dramatic story, and it was really hard. And it just totally threw me for a loop. Like, I was on the floor, like upset, like grieving process was really difficult for me. And something about that, I was like, I just need to like suck it up and go back to school. It's gonna be fine. Like I was in charge of the RPM program that year, and so I was just like, I have stuff to do, and I just need to like suck it up and get over it and go back and do my thing. That was in like August, and I was a biology major, and I was in like chemistry and genetics, and like just stopped caring about school completely. Like I just did not care. Like it eventually got to the point between August and early November when I just stopped on class, stopped doing homework. Like or I would do the homework and it would just be like unbearable, like genetics problem sets, if anybody has had to do those, like, it's like 2 + 2 = 4, and then it's like, oh, calculus, I don't know how to do that. So, and I was involved in a lot of stuff outside of school, like the RPM program, and I was a young life leader at a high school outside of Wofford, and so I just like stopped wanting to do anything at all. And that was just really weird, and so I started going to grief counseling, and it wasn't helpful at all, so I just stopped going to that too. And just kind of like got in this funk of, I don't want to do anything, I don't like any of the things I used to like. I'm not motivated in school, which is weird because I was a pretty good student. I mean, like, science is hard and stuff, but like I could do it. And I would just like stay in my Cuban Carlisle like, all the time. Like, I never wanted to leave, I just wanted to sleep all the time. Just got really, like, it's really hard for me to remember like specific emotions and stuff because it was just so down, like so not me. That's just really difficult for me. Like, I didn't even like journal, like I'm a big journaler, and like I had like a page the day that my friend died and like nothing until November. Like, it was just a really blank period for me. So I remember one day I was sitting in my room in Carlisle, and one of my friends from down the hall came in, and I was just sitting there, and people kept like trying to kind of like snap me out of it. Like, maybe I was just sad, but I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't snap out of it. I didn't know what was wrong. So I sat there and I was just like, hey Caitlin, like, do you ever just wake up and you know that it's Monday, and you just know that you have to do the things that you have to do on Monday, and then you can like get to Tuesday, and then like you just do the same thing, and then you can like get to Wednesday, and she's like, I don't, like, do you feel like that? I was like, yeah, I feel like that all the time. Like, it's just, and then like 10 minutes later I found out that one of my friends from Colorado had committed suicide, and I heard that, and I was just like, I'm done, like, I cannot handle my life right now. I'm just like too like sad. It's like a creepy sad all the time. And I marched my little self over to health services and talked to Beth Wallace and a bunch of other people that I'd already kind of been talking to. I was like, I'm tapping out. Like, I just can't like do this anymore. Like, I need help, like right now. And so I went to the doctor that day, and they did an assessment, and like I just don't remember it because it was just such a bad day. And they diagnosed me with major depressive disorder right there, and gave me an antidepressant right there. And I had a life coach. Like, things were so like hard that I had a life coach like on campus, so I just like couldn't do anything. And he was just like, I think that you need to take like some time off of school. And I was just like, cool. Like, I'm failing all my classes. Like, that sounds awesome. So I took a medical leave after and went home, and that was like Thanksgiving break. It was the day before Thanksgiving break, and I just like didn't tell anybody that I was leaving. Like, I was so out of it. And I just like had a sign on, like one of those like box cars. Like, look at me, like I have a sign. I don't have a sign anymore, but I did. And I just like had all my stuff shoved in there, like Tetris. And people were like, "What are you doing with it?" And I was just like, "I'm going home for Thanksgiving," and I just didn't come back. So the next 2 months were kind of like damage control. One of the big reasons why I left school when I did was because I was really having a hard time with like kind of dipping into like suicidal ideation, which is really, really scary. And that's like a whole other story. But so that was one of the reasons why I went home and had to spend some time at home. And people kind of asked me what that was like being at home and like being that, like I'll call it like being that sick, because it was really being sick. Like, I wasn't just sad, I was just like another human being. And like, you guys know, who knows like Harry Potter stuff? Most people, no. You guys know like in Harry Potter when like the Dementors are coming and like they're gonna like suck your soul out of your mouth and make you feel like you're never gonna be happy again, and like you feel like frozen and cold and like you don't have a heart. Like, that was what it felt like. Like, I can't watch Harry Potter movies because I just can't watch it because I'm like, that's real. Like, that happens. That's not just for wizards. That's what depression is like. And that's how I'll explain it. In another way, you guys will like this because you're psychology people. I'm going to butcher this story. It's like some dude had like an electric floor and dogs. That sounds really funny already. And like, I don't know anything about psychology, guys. So he had these like dogs and like in this room with an electric floor or whatever, and he would like shock the dogs and they would try to get out and they couldn't get out. And then the next time he did it or whatever, there would be like a way to get it out, but the dog could just like lay down and take it. Like, that's what happened to me. Like, things were so bad, it just felt so bad, and I knew that there were ways to get better, but I would just like lay down and take it. And so I was on a lot of medication, was just like really heavily medicated while I was at home, and got to come back to school. I just turned into like fake it till you make it. Like I felt better for like a week, but then like it just all came back. And I was like, okay, like I should just suck it up because I'm on this medicine and it's supposed to be doing its job, and like maybe something's just wrong with me. Like maybe I'm just like not trying hard enough, like I'm the problem, like it's not something that's wrong with my brain, like I'm just like not a good person or I'm too sensitive or like whatever. So I just like sucked it up. And I also like started all my friendships over, like I just stopped talking to people that knew me before I went home and like made all new friends. So like you guys that are seniors, like I'm really good friends with like half of your class because you guys were like new when I was kind of coming back. So that was weird. I'm still kind of paying for that, but the cool thing about the blog is like a lot of people have read it and like, oh, like I'm so sorry that I wasn't there for you. Like I'm sorry that I was like had the emotional capacity of a rock, like couldn't like have friendships. So Fake It Till You Make It lasted a really long time, like for the rest of college. I did an internship in Colorado the next summer and just like stopped taking my medication. My faith is like one of the things that really carried me through this for a lot of it. And I was like, I'm just not like praying hard enough, so I should just stop taking this medicine and just pray really hard, this is gonna go away. And like that didn't work. So yay. And so then I like, went back on medicine, but it was a different medication, and then I had junior year of college, which I don't really remember because I was super medicated the whole time, and like I switched my major from biology to religion. It was just like senior year, I wrote a thesis, and I was like, well, of course I'm irritable and like mean and like don't want to do anything, so I'm gonna write like an 80-page paper. Like anybody would be like that right now. Like literally until I graduated from Wofford, I was just not okay, and I just wasn't saying anything. Like I was kind of going to my doctor. His name's Sanjay, he's the man. But I would go see him like every 3 months. And I would be like, I'm doing great, like this is better, and this is better, and this is better, but I wouldn't tell them all things that were like really terrible and like all the things I was still struggling with because I was like, I don't want to get into work, I'm like, whatever. And they're like, because my goal was like, I don't want to be on this medicine anymore because people make me feel like crap for being on this medicine, and I just need to like get them to let me like stop taking it, and then everything will be fine, and I can just like put myself over my big straps, which is not a real thing. So I graduated from Wofford, and I didn't get into like my first choice grad school, which was Wake Forest, because they let like 4 people out of 300 into that program, so that was nice. So I went to grad school in Boone, and I really did not want to move to Boone, North Carolina, because I'm like, I hate snow, hate it. I lived in South Carolina for 4 years, and I don't want to do all that anymore. And so I went there. I was just like, you know what, grad school's gonna be great. And right before I went, I was like, I really want to do this. And Sanjay, Dr. S, whatever, he was like, all right, we're gonna like just amp up your medication because you're probably gonna have a really hard time. So we doubled it, which is like, I was okay with that. But I just was numb. Like all the sad I was feeling before was gone was because I couldn't feel anything. So I would just feel nothing, and then I would just be super anxious all the time for no reason. Like, oh, I have a paper due in 5 days that I haven't started, and it's a page, and it's a reflection on this like 10-second video that I have to watch, and I'm freaking out. And I would just be like, okay, like you need to go to sleep because, geez. So bless her heart. And things got really bad that semester. I got really sad again because I told my doctor I didn't want to be so medicated. I was like, hey, I want to like feel my feelings and participate in my life and like have friends and like try to function. I feel like I can like do that. And I also have this thing called seasonal affective disorder, which I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's like basically in the winter you just hate everything. Is the spark notes of that. And I live in the Arctic tundra, so that's great. Didn't really think about that because the SAD, it wasn't really a problem here because it's like, you know, it's winter, but you're wearing shorts and then you know, it's whatever. But there it was horrible. It snowed more than I've ever seen any snow in my life, and geez, this winter is so hooray. We got like a parka that you wear in Alaska because I just didn't know what to do. So I really struggled like last fall, so like a year ago right now, it was still really hard, and I was still on like my ache medication with my ache doctor and my ache like life coach. Like I was getting help. It just didn't make any sense that the help wasn't working. So I was like, I'm super messed up. Like I'm super hurt. Like, we've tried everything that we're supposed to try to fix this, and nothing is making it better. So like, geez. And then in the spring, I started this class on the DSM. In my grad school, we have cohorts of like 15 people, and I just started doing weird stuff. Like weird stuff. Like we had this like narrative therapy exercise where we had to decide like an animal that we were. I was just like, I'm an owl, and like I'm just like really smart, and like I feel like I'm like wasting my potential, and I just feel like I can go to law school or med school or like do something like blah blah blah. Like in front of all my classmates that are like in this room because they're like following things they're really passionate about. Like, and I was just like, and I love counseling. I'm really excited about it. I just in my like biannual life crisis, which happened like more than twice a year, really. I read that thing to people, and I just didn't think anything about it. And then 2 days later, my mom was like, "Hey, you really like ticked off like everybody. Like you really offended everybody." I was like, "When? Like, what are you talking about?" And she kind of told me. I was just like, "Holy moly!" Like I didn't even like think about it. Like it didn't even register with me that like that was an offensive thing to say out loud. So just a lot of things like that. Like I just really like ticked people off, and I didn't know it, and I was super irritable. But then I would be in like these really great moods where I'm like, I can do anything. Like I can conquer the world, and like no parents, and like would just go on these like weird spending sprees, and like didn't need. It just all started happening at once. Like I just didn't need. Yeah, that happened in like college. Amazon.com, I'm like their most valuable customer for sure. So like one time I didn't want to buy light bulbs. I didn't want to go to Walmart, so I ordered them on Amazon. So that makes sense. But so all this like stuff started happening, and like I just like wouldn't need to sleep. I'd like stay up all night and like read Jane Austen and like clean the kitchen and then go to work at 8 and like be super productive. And my room was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I feel awesome." And then like 2 days later, I'd be like off the edge of a cliff stabbing. So we're like, "What is going on? Like, this is really weird. Like, this is new." So I'm like, "Well, like maybe I was getting like really better." Like all the way like off the end of the spectrum. So we were in this DSM class, we started learning about bipolar type 2, and the professor starts talking about this thing called hypomania, and like, do you guys know what that is? I'm sure you're talking about that, yeah. And she starts listing off the symptoms, and like my roommate and I are kind of looking at each other like, huh, like, that sounds like me lately, it's weird. And then like, one of our other friends used to be in the school psychology program, so he was like, Mr. Psychology, loves it, and knows everything about it. And he was just kind of asking these questions like, "Amanda, have you ever had like a period where you just like not just a night, but a period where you just like didn't need sleep?" I was like, "There was this one time actually that you mentioned it that I drove from Denver to Virginia without sleeping. Like I really wanted to go home and like had 5-hour energies and just didn't need to sleep for like 36 hours. Like that's a super great idea, right?" Like that's the story my friends tell their parents when they do something stupid to make their stupid thing not look so stupid. So you can use that if you want. So they're just kind of like, huh, like, yeah, like the human body is not supposed to be able to do that. It doesn't really matter how many 5-hour energies you drink. It's like 6. It's terrible. It's a terrible idea. And we're like, have you ever like had to do this other thing? And so we print out this like hypomania checklist. Literally checked out every single thing, like just in the last 3 months. I was like, that's super weird. And so I was like, maybe like this is what's been going on the whole time. We just didn't know it. So I go to Sanjay, I was like, "Homeboy, like look at this. Like this is really like cool." And he was like, "This is all happening to me." I was like, "Yeah." And I was like in one of my like really good moods that day. So I was actually like telling him what was going on and stuff. So that was my spring break, so like March of this year. So really not that long ago. And I was like, I just saw this movie Silver Linings Playbook, and the guy in there is on this medicine called like Seroquel. So let's try that one. Like I just mentioned it offhand. Because I thought that was cool or something, I don't know. But like I looked up all these drug trials and was like, this one looks really effective with the medicine I'm already taking. So I tried like every drug class of antidepressant. I was like, we're running out of ideas. So we switched into like antipsychotics, which is a really scary word. And I like saying it out loud because people need to like not be scared of that. So tried that. Things got better like in like 2 days. Like I was like, what's gonna happen to me when I'm on this medication? Like, is it gonna take my personality away again? Or am I gonna be like really off the wall? Or just like really tired? He's like, it should make you feel like quote unquote normal. Like it should make you feel like there's really nothing kind of going on. I was like, that sounds awesome, but that's not gonna happen because we tried this like 9 other times. And it did, like it really let me live in the middle, which is like a first. I've never had 6 months in a row where I felt like so even keeled. And so like, hey, like this is the thing that you can have, but also like function. So I was like, you guys, this is so exciting. Like telling my professors, my cohort, and my boss at work, and my friends. I was like, you guys actually like have bipolar disorder, and they're like, oh no, like this is so terrible. I was like, actually, it's great because I'm on this like medicine now. It's like actually doing its job. Like I'm actually getting my life back. I can actually feel my feelings and like be in control of my feelings. But they were so just like, you know what? Like you just need to like take a break from everything. You just need to stop doing everything. You need to like go home, and, like stop this organization, and like you just really need to like take care of yourself and like figure this out. And I was like, I already figured it out. Like I don't need to go home. Like I'm not unstable. Like if you want to see unstable, it's like rewind in a couple years, and I'll show you unstable. But it's just kind of like this thing where I was like, people are afraid of this. like people are afraid of this word. Like when I say, like, hey, I'm Amanda and I have bipolar disorder, like it just this like, ugh, feeling kind of happens in people. And I think it's because like society's conditioned us to feel that way about that word. And that is something I was like, you guys, like, how are you telling me, where are you getting this information that like I'm not okay when I'm telling you that I'm okay? Because you haven't even like talked to me about this. Like I told you this 2 seconds ago. Like you didn't know that anything was even like going on in my life until I like sent you that email, let you know that I'm really excited about this progress. So like, where are you getting this information that like I'm not okay? And it's from like, it's coming from me. Like I was saying I was fine and people just didn't believe me because of the word. And like I had a lot of trouble with that. And at first I was like, they're right, like I am like crazy, unstable, like all these negative things, like because I have this diagnosis now. Like I'm not okay because I have this diagnosis now. Never mind that like that was the problem the whole time, and we just like didn't have the right name on it. And so that's kind of when I was like, huh, like, okay, like I should shut up. Like I should stop talking about this at all. Like I just don't need to say it out loud anymore. Like it's just people are gonna judge me, like people are gonna like assume these things about me, like people, like all this stuff. And like I just need to like suck it up, and like this is in like April, and just like keep my head down or whatever. And then one day I was just like, you know what, like I don't have to do that if I don't want to, and I really don't want to. Because me, like, bowing down to that idea that like, being bipolar or having bipolar disorder is not okay, is me saying like, hey, go pick up the DSM and open that page, and like that's what I am, like that's who I am on this piece of paper, and like that's not true. Like I have so much else going on like off of that piece of paper, and so I don't want to like perpetuate the idea that someone can tell me that because I have bipolar disorder, I can't do this, and I should go here, and I can't act this way, and like whatever else. So that's kind of when I decided, like, all right, like this is gonna be messy, and like this is really scary, and people probably are gonna judge me, but I feel like having this diagnosis and having this story and having all this stuff like that I know now, and just like shutting up about it is the same thing as like me freaking out on the inside, but sitting on the airplane just reading my Sky Mall magazine like nothing is going on. I'm like, that's such a waste. Like that's such a waste of like all this stuff that I've gone through. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person freaking out. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that's struggling with mental illness. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that's like struggling with depression or with suicidal ideation or with like having a bad day or like needing help for this other thing or like whatever. Like I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who's struggling with something. So why isn't anybody else like saying anything? Like why are we all sitting on the airplane chilling? Like we're all fine. So I was like, I'm gonna talk about it. So I just started telling my story to people, and I started like writing a blog. And I spent, this is the funny story, I spent most of the summer trying to convince somebody that they should date me. And he knows about this, so hey, if you ever watch this, sorry. We're friends now. Anyway, so I just like never said anything about that. I was like, I was really smart in college, and I was a biology major, and I made a perfect score on the SAT, and here are these like all these other things I'm good at. And I've never lost at a grocery store crane machine, and I like really have my life together. Like, I was like sitting at lunch with him, I was like, what the heck am I doing? Like that is, no, I'm like not like the woman's perfect, like whatever, rewind. And so that's when I was kind of like, I just have to stop pretending that I'm perfect, and I have to stop acting like I don't have this thing, this like diagnosis, whatever. Because at the same time, like I'm not, like I'm scared of it, because the stigma about mental illness like has a lot of power. Like it's kind of all over the place, like people really listen to it. And people are going to judge me based on a word. Just because there's nobody saying like, hey, like I have this disorder, and I'm like, I really don't care what you think about it, because I want to show you what it's like to have it and be managing it and still be struggling and doing hard things, but like doing it anyway. It's like I'm scared of this, but I'm doing it anyway, because I'm not ashamed of it anymore. And I used to be. And it took me like only 6 years to kind of like bust out of that. And I'm really thankful that I did, because like for a lot of reasons, really. But once I was kind of like, I don't act like I'm perfect anymore, and then I started talking to homeboy that I was trying to convince that he should date me. And then one day we're just kind of like, no, like this isn't gonna work out, blah, 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 blah. And I was throwing a dinner party at the time, so I was just like, well, I can write the blog about mental illness now that I'm not like trying to impress anybody anymore. And like I wrote it on like a Saturday night, and I was like, this is a bad idea, like people are gonna be such weird, like whatever. I'm just gonna like take a shower for 6 hours and never go on the internet again, it's fine. And it was like, oh, 170 people like liked it, and all these people are sharing it and like commenting on it. Like people I don't know, I'm getting all these emails from people who are like, hey, like my son got diagnosed with this, really scary, but hearing your story really helps us to feel like we're not like all by ourselves in this. And like, you know, like, hey, I got diagnosed with depression a month ago, and because like of your story, like I really want to like go and try to like find a medication that works for me. Or like, I'm gonna start going to counseling now. Just all these stories, like all these stories from people that I know, mostly people that I don't know, people that I've never met, people that I don't have mutual friends with. I was at a Braves game last weekend, and I got this like email from somebody that's like, hey, I decided not to commit suicide because of what you said. And like, that's kind of a game changer, you guys. So I was just like, you know what, like, I don't really care how people like this on Facebook, like that doesn't mean like anything compared to that. So it was kind of like, hey, this is what the last 5 years have been for, so that you can tell people your stories, and so that people can know that it is like okay to sit on the airplane and freak out if you want to freak out about something, and it is okay to struggle out loud with something if you're struggling with something. Like, I don't really care if it's a mental illness, or if it's like I'm having a bad day, or it's Monday and I don't want to do this, or like my dog died, or like whatever people are struggling with. Like, nobody should have to feel like crap about struggling with something. I just decided that that's what I want my life to be about now. I want people to know that it is okay to struggle out loud, it is okay to not have your life together, and it is okay to be on medication if you need to be on medication for something. Like, it's okay to be on medication if you have bipolar disorder, just like it's okay to be on medication if you have high cholesterol or ADD or whatever. Like, nobody should have to feel like crap about anything, and nobody is worthy of more or less respect than anybody else, especially not because of a diagnosis for something. I have to be on medication my whole life. I have to be on medication my whole life. That's how I feel about it. I have the fancy orange pill box.